So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been quite a few months actually before I made this because I have been like working 6 days per week. So um and welcome PUCOKIE.
So it's just like a lot to, I feel like it's a lot to, it's kind of confusing to explain. My name is Emily, but my channel's name is PUCOKIE. I guess I don't really mind. At the end of the day, I don't mind if people call me PUCOKIE, I guess.
Yeah, I mean like your channel name also changed, I
It
think.
did change and then I switched
A
it
few
back.
times.
Yeah, I switched it back
Yeah.
to PUCOKIE just
Oh,
because it's
okay.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. Great. So Emily has an MBTI channel as well. So would you like to briefly mention what you do on your channel?
Well, I also do like MBTI stuff, just like Tori. And I've taken a bit of hiatus. I'm actually getting back into making videos as well, and I want to put out more videos, so it's really cool to do. I mean, I want to do more videos with other people too. So, actually, Tori, I would love to have you on again on my channel.
Yay.
Um,
For
yeah.
sure, yeah. I miss doing videos on other people's channels as well. Um, so today we are actually going to be talking about INFJ's experiences with the TJ personalities in general. So actually, this is more of a socionics concept, but INFJs have like a weakness with extroverted thinking. It's not like in our function stack whatsoever, and we are particularly vulnerable to TE, which is a function that we basically it's like I realize that when other people use TE, I kind of perceive it as an attack, even when it's not sometimes. And other times, I guess it is because TE is generally aggressive, but there are other people, other personalities that cope well with TE way better than I do. And it's something that I have to like really learn, like and focus and adjust because it is not natural to us. And I think that it is like something that we can really talk about because we both have experiences with TJ types in leadership as well as, I guess, in I'm not sure if you have I mean, you have INTJ friends, but not sure if you have other types of TJ friends. So yeah, let's talk about our experiences with TJ types. And because both of us are INFJs, so we are able to like give, I guess, insights into our relationship with them as INFJs in particular.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you relate to this, but especially when I went to university, I found because I was in Model UN and a lot of simulation teams where it was kind of more, I feel like TJs really thrived in those environments, especially ENTJs, INTJs, and I did see some ESTJs, and then a few ISTJs, including my sister. My sister's an ISTJ.
My mom's a
So
USDJ. Okay, just giving
yeah,
context.
I know your mom's an ESTJ. It's crazy, but I feel like I have had a lot of experiences, and before I knew about typology, I think like if I look back on when I was in grade school and different things like that, and I like think about some teachers that I had issues with, I can kind of tell that maybe they were TJ types. So
Yeah, yeah. The funny thing is that okay, so this is more like we are gonna talk about our general experiences first before we move on to the specifics, like which TJ types that we tend to get along with more and which TJ types that we just generally don't get along with. So yeah, like the teachers thing, I remember the teachers who always found problems with me in school were like STJs. I think there was like one specific ISTJ. Now that I remember, or ESTJ. I can't really tell because it's like might be either one. And and I think there was also a few positive experiences, but it's more like um, I guess it's like a mixed bag. Like I had an ENTJ teacher who was really like she's really fierce, but at the same time she has like good intentions and she valued my intuitive nature, I guess. So that was like a positive experience because she was able to see value in, like, the thing is, I feel like with TJ types, like, you have to really be able to have similar interests in order to get along. That's what I noticed. And my ENTJ teacher in the past was also like a history major and also like in English, like a language person. So she was able to see value in me being good in history and English. So I think that's when she is able to coach, like guide me on certain things. But if they are the type of TJs who have similar, I mean, different interests and different values, then it's like easy to clash.
Well, because they clearly see our weaknesses with TE. Like it's so
Right.
clear.
Yes.
It's not as I feel like I mean
That magnified, you know.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we may do I mean maybe not so much me, but like I think you do because I've seen a lot of your videos and well, basically every video. But and like obviously I've seen you and the way you present yourself isn't what I think people would stereotypically think is like an INFJ. Like you present yourself, I think as INFJs we kind of have learned that we have to overcompensate. Like not like that
Right.
you are, but like it's just something naturally that we've done over time because we get judged if we like have to act if we act, I don't know, if we're not like thinking logically, I guess.
I see. Yeah. I mean, I use a lot of TI because of my dad, but like
Yes.
I'm fine using TI. I'm just not good with TE. So it's like
Exactly.
TI is my comfort zone, but TE is like a different zone.
Exactly, but that I think for people that maybe aren't so familiar with typology, they may look at it and be like, "Oh, she's not like." I mean, I know I get it a lot, but it's for different reasons. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're not
For
an
like,
INFJ," or like,
yeah, you thought, I think they thought like you don't have like the expressiveness, so they assume you are like INFP or INTJ.
yeah, a lot. I think more recently INTJ. Like, so many people think I'm an INTJ, and it's like, but I can see that with you too. Like you're not always like, but when we do express, we like express a lot. It's just like we can have
Yeah.
like those blank faces. But yeah, beside the point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like it's so true. Like you said, the TJ types really see our weakness in TE because especially like the strong TE types, like the TE DOMs, because they're so good at TE. So we have basically in socionics as a point of least resistance. It's like our most vulnerable function, and we don't really use it that much compared to most other people. And so they really see that, and they kind of zoom in general. Like TJ types tend to be the ones who really see my weakness, like in TE, because that's what they value. And like for example, if I work with an ENFJ, she doesn't really. I don't know. I feel like ENFJs that I worked with, they don't see my TE weakness as a huge issue. Like they would just be like, oh, okay, or they would like see other traits that I have that they value, and so they can kind of set it aside, I guess, the
yeah.
TE weakness. But like if it's like a TJ type, like a really strong TJ type, like ESTJ or ENTJ, like they tend to like be very bothered by the fact that I don't use TE that much. Like it shows like the importance that it plays on it shows up compared to
No,
many types.
I totally agree with that. ESTJ boss, or at least I'm pretty sure she was. I've actually had a few ESTJ bosses in the past, but my last one, and this is something that I found, and I'm not saying that all ESTJs are this way, but I found that they are very like, they're good at like mobilizing people in a sense that's, it's in a like a marketing sense. They're really good at like, I don't know, creating this atmosphere of this TE atmosphere, but they get on this treadmill of like going and going and going, and then they like blow up. They don't know how to take out their emotions or like how to deal with things calmly. And I've seen, and I'm not saying that all ESTJs are like this, but I've had a few ESTJ bosses that like just scream out of
Oh
nowhere.
my God,
Like
yes,
they
they
scream at
do. They
people.
do.
And it's always someone that's like they see as inferior to them.
Yep.
I've seen this so many times. Like my last boss, well, a few bosses
It's
ago,
funny.
she
I don't know
screamed in
why.
front of her son. Like she
Uh-huh.
screamed in front of her 16-year-old son in like this this room that it was another room, but there was like I don't know, this is just so stupid, but um okay, so it was like a wall, but the ceiling wasn't connected. So there's like a gap in the wall. So it was like a wall, like a room that had like a gap. So it was like they had the door closed, but there was like clearly you could hear because it was just a wall with a door.
Oh God. Yeah, no, I have seen ESTJs shouting at people very like on a frequent basis. It's like so I've worked in like as a waiter. I mean, it's not like obviously not full time or anything, but it was like back when I needed cash, and it was ironic though that one situation that ESTJ guy, that one very unique situation, he was biased towards girls who were foreign. I don't know why. Like he's Indian, and he was like treated us really nicely, but he treated his like male waiters really badly. And so I witnessed him
Oh
like
my gosh.
shouting at them and like throwing a piece of cloth at one of them. And it was like he couldn't hold back his anger because the waiter was being like inefficient. Obviously, it's like related to efficiency. Yeah, the waiter was like not fast enough in clearing the tables. And he basically like it was like so loud. It was like the second floor, but I could hear it like on the first floor too. And then I walked up because I had to like bring the stuff over, and I saw him like throwing a piece of cloth at that guy. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so glad I was in that position because he's like nice to girls. It was like because I thought he would shout at me because I was like obviously not the efficient person he wanted, like in terms
Yeah.
of clearing plates and stuff. But he didn't because I was like female and foreign. So
That's okay. That's also something weird because, like, in socionics, again, like we are using Myers-Briggs terms, but like in socionics, we would be IEI, and then ESTJs would be LSEs, and so, but we're gonna speak in Myers-Briggs terms. ESTJs, it's so weird because like I do find any ESTJ boss I've had, even though like it's clear they do not like me, it's like they'll make fun of me. Like I've had this where they'll like pick
oh
on me
yeah,
or
they
make fun
do.
of me, but at the same time, it never gets the same point as it does with some people where they really scream at them. Like I have never experienced that at work. I've just experienced them be like very microaggressive, like micromanagey to me and like make fun of me for being too messy. Like I was very good. Like this one place, I was the quickest at making bubble tea. Like I was worked at a boba place, and this was her thing is, and I think I might have said this before, but like she said, you are too engaging with the customers. Even though I like did everything I was supposed to do, the fact that like I knew all of the customers' names and I actually cared about them, she's like like she got like mad about that. I
Oh
don't know,
really?
she was
Like
like trying to
mine was actually fine. Like I'm actually, I mean, nobody really said anything about being engaging. So yeah. But I do that too. I mean, I don't remember their names, but I do try to talk to them and like, you know, be like a bit more
yeah.
welcoming than the usual TJ personalities, I guess.
It's just, well, I think TJs actually are pretty engaging, but I find that it is very fakey. It's like very fake seeming, especially from women. I don't have that many experiences with, I don't think I have any experience with ESTJ male bosses. They're all female. And my last boss, she actually, and I don't have any problem talking about this, but my, and she wasn't my last boss actually, but like earlier on this year, I was working at a company, the same one that yelled at her 16-year-old son. She actually fired me. She like,
Wow.
it was, it was like at 9 a.m. We had just come in, and she like asked me to come, and this was like on a Monday morning. She like asked me to come into her office, and she's like, Emily, this isn't working out, and like didn't give me any explanation. And I tried to be very calm. I didn't cry because I do cry in those situations. And I just grabbed my stuff and left. By the end of the night, she texted me and she's like, um, can you come back? Like, she wanted me to come back, and I came back just in 2 days. I just wanted to see what she had to say. Like, I probably still have the text, to be honest, and it's actually kind of funny.
But why? Why?
She literally, so I was doing social media for them, and the reason she fired me was because she just went to a Tony Robbins event, and that's a whole different situation. She just felt like this need to and so many people quit, and like the manager quit right before, so she was like, and she was seeing red. So she just picked me out again. She picked me out. She picked me out of the crowd, and she's like, "You come in here." And that's like, I know that was what it was, because it wasn't like we really had issues. We didn't really talk like that. It wasn't like anything that I was doing above and beyond what I was told to do. But anyways, I go in there just to see what she had to say, and she's like, "Well, I really want you, and I think you would be really great for this company, and we have to take it to the next level," and like all this stuff. And she was like telling me, and she literally offered me a job 3 times, and I'm like, no. I mean, like, I just wanted to hear what she had to say, but I don't want to put up with that. Like, I felt relieved when she fired me, actually. And so yeah, but anyways, I think it was her roundabout way of me like not getting unemployment too, but that's a whole different story. But anyways, it just was like she literally changed her mind right then, and I don't know. Like, I don't think that's super stereotypical of an ESTJ, but it still is just like how they can quickly just, I don't know. And
yeah, it's really confusing to me how I think EXTJ types, because I don't know if my bosses were ENTJ or ESTJ sometimes, because when you move up the management, like some of them have like intuitive traits, because I guess they have to have it, otherwise they wouldn't be able to like go further in their career. So like I don't know, the thing is I'm confused. Obviously the ones that work in restaurants are usually ESTJs from what I've seen. But like the ones that work in offices, like some of them confuse me because they seem to either have developed their NE or their ENTJs, and it's hard to tell. But I realized that I guess I would just say EXTJ types. They confuse me because sometimes they change their mind on a whim. I don't know. Maybe it's the FI at the back like causing the change. Like they would like you, like treat you really well a certain day, and then suddenly like be in a really bad mood, and it's like mood swings and it's like literally like it could be like an hour ago that they were like really polite and nice, and then suddenly they spot like I don't know, something that they don't like, and then they would like be really angry. And it's like
it's weird.
It's like this very, very strong fluctuation in mood, and I think it's weird because they don't. A lot of EXTJ bosses don't respect like FP types when it comes to work. I mean, they like them in real life, I guess, but they don't respect them at work. Like they would tell me stories about how a certain person is like too emotional and stuff. But then I'm thinking like you're also pretty emotional. Like it's just they don't see that they are emotional. Like they see themselves as like being really hyper efficient and really like good at doing things, which obviously they are in some ways, but they are also really emotional, and I think they don't see it that way. But I kind of see that they have the FI thing very obviously in many situations.
Oh yeah, it's like obviously they're not super good at FI, so they have like it's like they have this weird protective barrier of it, and like and I feel like when they're FI, like especially if it's a bad thing is released, because I've experienced this too. So like when I worked at the bubble tea shop, so I was like 20, I want to say I was 21 when I started working there, and like only worked there for a summer. So I was young, and she was actually super young. I think she was only like 25 or something. And she
Wow.
owned it. Well,
My age.
her mom like owned it with her,
Mhm.
like she didn't own it on her own, but she was like maybe 26. So pretty young. And I remember when I like quit because I was just so sick of her shit and like her being mean to me. And again, it wasn't like she did anything, like she didn't cuss me out. Like she cussed other people out, like screaming at them in front of guests, like people when it was like super busy. She never did that with me. She was just like mean to me and like would pick on me. And I ended up quitting, and she basically was like, and I quit over the phone because it just was appropriate at the time. And she said, well, I was going to fire you anyways, which she clearly wasn't. She wasn't going to fire me. And then I ended up having a talk with her and her mom in the same room and like talking
Awkward.
it over. No, I wanted to. And I actually ended on a good note, and I ended up hugging both of them. And like to this day, like I'm on good terms with her, actually. And I'm also
Yeah.
on good terms with my old boss that like tried to hire me again. Like it's just like I didn't burn bridges with them, more so with this person than her.
I didn't really burn any bridges. I'm just not the kind of person who likes burning bridges, I
Yeah.
guess. Like, I try to end things on a good note every single time. Because I think we can kind of move on to this next idea of like, how do you respond? This is like something that I just came up with in my mind, but how do you like respond to EXTJ types? Because from what I learned, because I feel like everything can be a learning experience. Like one way that I learned to respond is like this really like corny quotes that I found online, but it works. So it's like how other people treat you is their karma, but how you treat them is like yours. And I really believe in that because I see like a lot of people who are like have problems controlling their anger, and it kind of like it affects their own life. So it's like at the end of the day, it's not like our business to like change them or to respond in the same way, because it just I used to be reacting angrily to angry people, and I realized it's just so not worth it because it doesn't do anything. Like
Yeah.
does really bad things to us. And from now, like really my way of responding is how I would respond in my own way, and I don't like react in turn, I guess. And I try to end things on a good note, but I would like end things because obviously we have like everyone has their limits. And there are certain things that I don't tolerate in people. Like one of them is, the thing is, I'm fine if people are to criticize like my work, but I'm not okay if they use like vulgarities or if they try to like belittle people in
Yeah.
a way that is not like, it's not like constructive, you know? Like that's like my limit. And if someone is basically breaks that boundary, um I'm just gonna like end it like at some point or the other. So for me it's more like I would not allow for the treatment by just ending it, but I'm not gonna react like in the same way as they do, because I feel like at the end of the day it's really about how you respond. Like you're in control of your response to it.
Yes. No, I totally agree with you. That's like, I think that's good advice, even dealing with other people that aren't even, I would even say specifically ESTJs. I mean, I think I've had some issues with ENTJs, but it's mostly been ESTJs. I mean, I've definitely had falling outs with other types as well. Um, but yeah, you have to respond in a way that's like, you can't let it affect you, because I feel like especially ESTJs, it's like they want that reaction out of you.
Exactly.
They
Yeah,
want to
I
like,
agree.
it's like they're looking for you to get like upset. It's
Yeah,
really
and
weird.
yeah, and I think calmness is really important. Like, I think I in the past, I used to be like so affected by criticism in general, I think it's because like of my mom being an ESTJ and stuff. Like I'm very reactive to TE criticism, and sometimes I overreact because it's like sometimes it may not even be. It might just be the way they talk. Like their talking style is like more aggressive than normal. I mean, than like non-TE types. Then I realized that it's actually not working out in my favor because if you focus, like if you kind of get really affected by it, um, you kind of like affect other areas of your life, which shouldn't actually be in that, you know, it shouldn't be like influencing your other areas because that's like one thing and one person.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, you can't, I mean, I think that's something that even applies to this year, especially. It shows how much things can affect you, and you don't
Yes.
need to add another dimension of, I mean, sometimes it's hard to avoid. It's sometimes very hard to avoid those situations, but you have to just try to keep a level head. And if you can, I do recommend, I don't think that we are meant to have ESTJs over us in general, as far
Yeah,
as
I don't
bosses,
think so
like in a
either.
long-term aspect. I think
Mhm.
it can
Yep.
be kind of damaging on our mental health for both. And
Yeah, for
maybe more
both.
so us because like
Yeah,
they're our
definitely.
boss or whatever.
Yeah,
But
because it's not an equal dynamic. Like if I'm with an ESTJ individual, like it will be easier because I can say things to them. I mean, not like in an angry way, but more like leveling the field. Like for
yeah,
example, I can say like, don't talk to me that way. So the only way really is to like cut it short, I guess, so that
yeah.
you don't get the same thing because you can't really control, I mean, how they talk to other employees or to you.
I don't think it happens overnight because some of this is, and this goes for other types too, but like a lot of this has to do with like you have to kind of train yourself to not react sometimes to situations because
Yeah, it's a training. Yeah, it
especially if
really
you've
feels like
never
a training.
encountered that before. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I feel like we've had, like, you obviously had an ESTJ mom. My sister's an ISTJ, but that's a whole different situation. And I get along fairly well with her. It's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
But
some ISTJs with developed NE, especially, I get along very well with them because they kind of respect my intuition, even though it's a different type of intuitive function. But yeah.
yeah, it's just different. But I do think it could be challenging for someone that has never experienced even an ENTJ or an INTJ. Like, it can be a whole different situation. And I think out of the four of those types, obviously INTJ is kind of the easier type for us to get along with
Yes,
naturally.
yes. INTJs, I have very little issues with them actually
Me
because
too.
yeah, INTJs is a very, I don't know, I see them as different from all other TJ types.
I
Like
do too.
yeah, because they lead with NI, and that's so rare. Like, I mean, anyone who leads with NI in this world is hard to find, at least in my experience. And people who lead with NI, like they understand others who do because we have similar difficulties. Like, NI is generally not very seen as normal. So, like, we are very imaginative and we live in our own mind. And so INTJs tend to be pretty nice to me in general, and vice versa, I think. And
Yeah.
I mean, they do have TE moments, but I find the TE more like entertaining than scary. Yeah.
Well, and I think where I see, because I have both INTJ friends, but I've also worked with a lot of INTJs. I mean, I feel like just through everything that I've done, I kind of have, I don't know, feel like I've attracted a lot of INTJs in my life, more so than a lot of other people have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from what I've heard, because they are like a rare, very rare type as well. Um, but okay, so the girl that actually quit the day before I was fired and then like rehired. um, and then
Right.
like I refused. I'm glad that I refused. Like I feel so good that I did not take that job. But again, but she was actually an INTJ, and she was probably my closest. She was like my direct manager, and she was the closest person I had at work. And it's just interesting because INTJs are really good at keeping up facades, like this TE facade. I feel like they're really good in a workplace to like, they don't really care. Like, you can kind of tell it's not super obvious, but if you are keen to it, you can tell if an INTJ doesn't really like people. Like, they'll like do little hints, but it's like almost like, I don't know. It's like shifting of eyes. Like, you kind of can see if someone's like annoyed or something, and then they kind of go back normal. Like, maybe they just roll their eyes, but then it goes back normal. That's kind of how I see INTJs in the workplace. And she didn't really like our boss either. In fact, I talked with her after it happened, and she told me some stuff, but like, obviously I'm not going to say. But she was really good at keeping up this persona that she like had everything in my boss's best interest, which she did because she was the manager, and she worked really hard, but it was just her way of getting through the day and like being efficient and like doing her job. She didn't really care like necessarily about the people. Whereas for me in that workforce, I also like wanted to do my job, but I also wanted to care about the people. It just was like, I don't know, it was different. And she was just really good at keeping up this facade of, I don't know, even having people think that she liked them and stuff when she didn't.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think INTJs are actually, I would say they are like a blessing in the workforce because they are both efficient and also like they have big ideas. And I think that's like, I mean, I'm pretty envious of that personality type,
Me
honestly,
too.
because I know that sometimes I have like efficiency issues. Like, I know myself, like, I'm not very good at being like in very fast paced industries.
Yeah.
Like, what I notice is that, going back to our topic, like, I feel like INTJs are like a blessing to the workforce because they basically like they don't have a weakness when it comes to work, at least in my opinion, because other than maybe customer service, because they don't smile very often, or they're not able to. Okay, they are able to, I guess.
I feel
Have the
like actually, I can't really speak for male INTJs as much, but for female INTJs, and I'm not saying they like it or like they prefer it, and I think it's very draining for them. But actually, I think if they are trained, especially at a younger age, they're really good at customer service, actually. Like,
Yeah,
when
they
they can
can
be
be.
on, it's just
Yeah,
like they
they
have
can put
to,
on that. Yeah.
it's like they're very good at keeping to the job directive. So if they have to be in customer service, they're gonna be that to the T, but also be very efficient. Like, they're very good at
Yeah,
like narrowing in on their job and like doing it.
they're the perfect employee, honestly. I would want an INTJ as employee. I mean,
Same.
not saying that I'm the boss, but like, I would if I were, you know? Because I feel like they have all grounds covered.
I think they are efficient, but I wouldn't say they're the fastest. I actually think that INTJs are kind of on the slower side of actually things, but the way they compensate for it is they are efficient in other ways, and maybe they don't get as distracted as we do. And
Yeah,
then
we get
also,
distracted.
yeah, and then also, I think they're really good at like keeping up appearances. Like,
Yep,
they're
we
just like,
do.
even the way they're like maybe sitting, again, they keep up this like persona in public
Yep.
where it's like, oh, they're doing everything they're supposed to do. Whereas, I might every once in a while, I might be doing just as much work as them, but like, I don't look like I might be eating like a chocolate bar or something
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
like.
do that. I snack. I love snacking during work. It's one thing I noticed. Also ISFJs, actually. Also ISFJs. Because I literally have a friend who like had mental issues after working in finance industry, and she's an ISFJ. And I think her boss was probably an STJ or NTJ, and she got like basically like she literally had to go through like institutionalized treatment. So it's and I think it's because she's in the wrong field. Like ISFJs in a fast-paced finance sector is really bad. Like it's a very bad feat. I mean, I guess maybe some ISFJs can do that, but I think generally speaking, it's just a really bad fit. And I think especially for ISFJs and INFJs, like we have to be very careful in choosing the kind of work that we do because we don't have TE. Like I did freelance acting for a while, and we had to stay up until like I think 10 or 11, and I actually enjoyed it. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
could do that
let's
too.
continue.
Yeah.
I'm like, when's my scene? Because I just love it so much. Like I don't mind. Like I forgot about the hours,
Well, it's
but
also something
yeah.
creative. Like, I do think that we are suited more towards a creative field. And that doesn't mean like you have to do something artistic or something, but like even acting. I mean, anything that involves interacting with people, I feel like is good and not, like you said, stuck in a cubicle kind of being fast paced. So,
Yeah. And like details, like small details, is not our strong points, unfortunately.
even though that's like such a common thing. Oh, detailed oriented. I mean, there are some things that you do have to kind of fib about. Just
Yeah, you
even
have to
get
like
your
really
foot in the
focus.
door.
So I have like tried many ways to like compensate for that, like taking down notes and like videos. I think those two things are things that we can do. But
Yeah.
I would say generally like choose something that doesn't have to require that as a main part of your job.
Yes.
Like it has to be like
Definitely.
obviously every job needs details, like you can't run away from it, but it doesn't have to be like the main thing. I mean, try not to because it's going to be a bad match.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Like freelance work doesn't require that. I mean, it requires a bit of details, but it's not like the center of the work. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on what it is, but I totally agree with you. I also think that, I mean, this is kind of apart from things, but I actually think that INFJs are meant to be in higher roles. We're not meant to be like working under people. Like, I actually think we're supposed
Yeah.
to be directing people.
Yeah.
And at the top, and I know that like obviously you have to, and it's like, so it's like, well, you have to kind of climb your way or you have to build your own business, but INFJs are like really supposed to be in that visionary role. Like, I mean, we do have our strong suits, and I think we're really good at pulling people together and like developing individual relationships. And I mean, again, different things that we're good at, but we're not really meant to be, especially at the lowest level. That's not where we're going to thrive.
Yeah, for sure. And it's difficult because like if you talk to someone from a corporate world, like they would be like very stunned at your statement because they're like, but you don't have TE though. Like how do you make your way up? Because they see it as like a ladder, like a very straightforward hierarchy. And that's another thing I realized, like where our values may not align with the EXTJ types is that they have a very hierarchy mindset. Like that's just how they see the world. Basically, like they see people in different positions. And I think INFJs in general, we value like a flat hierarchy structure. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be like 100% flat, but we don't
Yes.
enjoy like very hierarchical structures in general, where you have to like it's really obvious like who is at the top and who is in the middle and bottom, and you are kind of treated differently, or at least talked to differently, or yeah, something like that.
I actually really love the way you phrase that, like the flat hierarchy, because that's something that I've always thought about, but I just haven't had a way of saying it because we definitely are hierarchical or whatever. But it's definitely different than like a delta hierarchy. Like
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
delta's really the delta quadrant, they really do have this like it is kind of like that. Like it is like a corporate ladder in some ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas for us, especially like as INFJs, we do. I mean, when so I was actually in a lot of leadership roles in college, and I actually think that I was really good at them because and like some of my best friends are actually like people that I brought like into these groups that I was a leader of, and I just never made it and I'm not saying like I was the best leader ever, And I don't really try to be this leader. Sometimes it was just given to me, but I try to exactly what you said. When I would lead things, instead of going in front of the room, like if it was a classroom setting, instead of going in front of the class and like kind of presenting it or like sitting behind where a professor would sit, because that's where like a lot of club leaders would go, I would actually want to join a table in the center and just like lead the group, but have everybody together and like hear from everyone. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, that was my leadership style. And I do think actually, and again, it's like at the very top companies. It's not like, it's like the kind of the CEOs, or like, I don't even know what that would be like. But those are the roles that we are actually really good at. Maybe not CEO, but like where we're doing like the visionary stuff, the kind of behind the scenes, but also just like bringing people together. Like we do really like to know people and really play with their strengths.
Right.
Like we're good at certain details. Like I'm
Yeah.
definitely like I can remember certain things. But it's just like yeah, that's why, Tori, we gotta build our businesses. one day
So we
one
can
day
designate the
one day I
roles
do
to the
whatever.
other people.
Yeah, and it's not like that. It's just like yeah.
Yeah, we should. We really should. Because actually I realized that a lot of intuitives, actually dominant intuitives, not just INFJs, but like a lot of dominant intuitives are not good with details. I mean, no offense, but like ENTPs are even worse sometimes, because the thing is I'm slow, but I feel like at the end of the day, like I get the major things right. Like I don't leave things trailing, but sometimes like ENTPs leave things trailing. Like they can be fast, but they kind of like leave a lot of things hanging there. And
I think yeah.
yeah, so they have to ENTPs. I think ENFPs as well. Like from what I noticed, like a lot of them are doing their own thing, and like podcasts or I don't know, something else that they are doing on their own, because I don't think dominant intuitives work very well under like the traditional leadership roles either. Because I can't imagine an ENTP and an ENFP like working under an ESTJ for their whole life. I mean, maybe for a small period of time, but like
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that for like a lifetime.
But they also, I feel like for ENFPs and ENTPs, they also have a way different. I mean, but it's also individual for each of those types as well. Like I would say out of the four of them, I think ENFP is kind of ENFP actually and INTJ are like more likely to maybe not thrive, but like work better under ESTJs, I feel like. Or like that structure. Just
Right.
because of the TE. But
Yeah, they do have TE. It's just it depends on the ENFP, because some ENFPs I know have very weak TE. It's
yeah.
like so weak until it's like they. I mean, the thing is, it's funny because they do have TE, but like if they don't use it consciously, they actually are way less organized than me. Because I'm still a J type, even though I mean that's like not really in socionics, but in INFJ. I mean, like my district.
Well, the way I actually want to make a video about this, and I think, I mean, you're exactly, I mean, you're basically saying this is the in Myers-Briggs, the J types, especially the introverted Js, again, even though we're not really, I think it's a public persona. Like publicly,
Yeah,
we present ourselves as put together.
yeah, we do. I mean,
And
there are NFPs who are like really not put together. I'm not saying all, but like some of them really, if
no,
they
I
don't
agree.
if they don't consciously use their TE, they're like the least organized person I've ever seen in my life. Like they walk out the house wearing things that are like not matching. I mean, just
Yes. No, and actually I actually think that you are totally right, and I actually will retract that statement of ENFPs working under ESTJs. Um because I think it's very much a hit or miss with ENFPs actually.
yes, true.
When it comes to working, like sometimes ESTJs will love them, but it's like almost a love-hate relationship, because when I'm thinking about it, any ENFP relationship with an ESTJ that I've seen where it's a work and place environment, the ESTJ, some of those ENFPs are actually the targets of them yelling at them. Like those are going to
Oh,
be some of those explosive ones
yeah,
that
yeah,
I've talked
yeah.
about.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I've heard stories, like I've not seen it, but I've heard stories of like basically NFP types being fired on the spot. Like they didn't say NFP, obviously, they don't know Myers-Briggs, but like the description is very NFP because they are saying like, oh, this person is like really self-absorbed in their feelings and like refuse to like do their work when they're like basically when they're criticized, they cry on the spot and they like refuse to do their work and then they got fired. So it sounds like a FP person, no offense, but I think only FPs do that. I mean, at least from what I've seen, like usually it's the NFPs or maybe ISFPs, but less so, I would say. Maybe more NFP types who
Yeah.
would prioritize their feelings in that way. I mean, obviously the ones that are not developed in their TE. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the type relations are just so interesting in general and how they interact.
Mm-hmm. I guess like to end on a good note, once again, like we can talk about what we learned, what are the learning points that we have from like strong TE types. Yeah. So you want to go first?
Um, yeah, I guess so. Like one thing, and I've mentioned this actually on TikTok. It was kind of funny because I like did like this new No Nuance November, which is kind of a trend on TikTok of like going over different things about the types.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the positive things I said about like ESTJs is I think they're really good at marketing. Like they have a very keen sense of how to market. And that's something that I do admire about them. I think they're really good at I do admire their like business ethic. Even
Yes,
though
I
I
do
don't
too.
think it's the practice of it isn't always good, but like their structure of it is good. They just need to have someone else leading it. And
But they
then
want to lead though.
yeah, and then ENTJs. I've had mostly all good experiences with ENTJs. Really, I don't think I actually have not really had any notable bad experiences with ENTJs. Actually, I might have had an ENTJ boss that I'm thinking of. If she was either ESTJ or ENTJ, but I'm almost thinking she was more ENTJ. And this was at Starbucks. I've had a lot of different bosses at Starbucks, and I don't know, she was not as great. But for the most part, with ENTJs, I do think they make for really good leaders in general.
If
When
they
it
are
comes,
healthy. Yeah, if they
yes,
are healthy. I
healthy
think
ENTJs, I think
mhm.
make for very fair leaders in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. Um, I think they can sometimes be misguided though by their TE, um, or just like even their FI. I feel like, but in a lot of ways, any ENTJ leadership that I've ever been under, I do find them to be pretty fair. And this is mostly speaking from like um, teachers, and also I was one of my good friends in college was an ENTJ, and he was captain of our club for a little while, like our Model UN, and he was, I think, one of the best captains ever. ISTJs, I think, are extremely tenacious. Like, I think they don't get enough credit for being as tenacious as they are. I think a lot of people mistake some ISTJs as being INTJs because they seem so tenacious and intuitive in some ways, especially if they have a good grasp of NE. And I don't know, like, my sister's an ISTJ, so I have like a lot of really good correlations with her. She also has some bad things too, but we both do. And INTJs, if I was to be any other type apart
Yeah.
from my own type, I probably would pick an INTJ.
Yes. I would. Or an ENFJ. I mean either one.
I feel like I need to like make a video about my falling out with like loving EFJs because they used to be my favorite type and I just don't think they are anymore because I've
Oh,
had
they're not my favorite, but like I just find it easier to be an ENFJ than an INFJ. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, so that's
For
why I'm
sure.
like, if I
Yeah,
could,
I mean, I
you
think
know.
we both have kind of wanted to be an ENFJ in our lives. Yeah, I really thought I was an ENFJ. I do think that ENFJs, even though I think they can be misguided in some ways, but it makes sense because we're mirrors and we see like their misguidedness.
Yeah.
It's like it would be so great to just like have FE, like have SE and NI so close together.
Yes. Yeah, and they are really good at like because they FE is more common than NI, so they have that as a protection. Like people don't pick on them that much because leading
Yes.
with FE, yeah, and also
Well,
SE
and
is
they're
stronger.
really good at like commanding groups. Like
Yeah,
maybe not as much one-on-one, but when it comes to like a group setting, they are so good at like the herd mentality, which is also not very good. Like they can
yeah,
also
mhm,
form a cult of personality that's not very good, but when it is done correctly, it's like super powerful.
yeah. Oh yeah, back to the INTJ. Were you talking about INTJ before the learning points?
Oh, that they're just my favorite,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, they are. But I
Like
don't
they
see
might
a
be
lot
my
of
favorite
INTJ
type in
bosses
general.
though.
What
I
was
don't
that?
think INTJs like to be bosses. I mean, they are usually not bosses, in my opinion. I mean, in my experience.
I think that actually, I don't really think that INTJs want to, and I don't think they make for the best leaders either. Like, I think they're good leaders, but
They're
not
more
the best.
independent. Yeah.
It's just like something, it's like they don't want it enough. Like, they're good to a certain point, I think. I think they're good alongside if like an INTJ and an INFJ, which actually I have been in that situation. Never mind.
Mhm.
Anyways, so
Okay, I gotta go soon, but I think I'm just gonna contribute my last words to the video about what I learned. And I think one thing that I learned from the strong TE types is really their independence because they can do things on their own, like without someone telling them to how to. Like they just do their own research and do their own, like they can just like do everything on their own, and that's like something that I'm proud of. So they keep bragging about it, but it's like I get it. Like it's like something that I have to work on, obviously, because we don't we don't usually do our own research as much as the TE types do. So yeah, and I think that's great. That's a great learning to do because once I guess if you start doing your own thing, then you have to do a lot of your own research, which I actually did for my own channel. Like that's how I got the, graphics done. Like it used to look really bad, the thumbnails. And so yeah, and I think TE types are generally they are very easy. It's like easy for them to when they are in a work mode, they can detach from emotions. And obviously, like not all the time, but when they actually have to get things done, they're able to detach. So that's like really important. And I think even now, like, I when I am in a bad mood, I try not to let it affect my work anymore because that's like something that I learned from them. Like, just because something happened at work, like even if something unfair happened at work, like I try not to let it affect my work because I'm like able to compartmentalize. I mean, not as well as they do, but like I think I'm able to think like, okay, so this is like what I have to do, and whatever unfair things that happen, like I can kind of let go for the moment because they're not directly related to my work.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think for the most part, every single type has their like strengths and weaknesses. And I would say the biggest things are that they do have a tendency to be tenacious and also self-sufficient, and that is something that I mean, again, and that goes into TE, and that's why we do admire it. But also, it's kind
From
of
a
annoying at the
distance.
same time. What?
From a distance.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I think also like one thing though, like I didn't say that because obviously I'm not like at that position to talk to them that way, but I feel like they also can learn from us, because especially from FE types, that from what I realize is that TE types are efficient on their own, but they're not really that good at getting other people to be efficient, even though they think they do. Like, they're good at being efficient by themselves. But like when it comes to like efficiency as a team, I feel like sometimes FE types actually do it better, because they are better at anticipating people's different needs. Because I worked under like an ENFJ and an ESFJ before, and they really understand my strengths and weaknesses, because they have like this like they're more in tune with like different working styles of people, and because they know that I have my own strengths and weakness, they kind of cater to that, and that actually made things so much more efficient. Like, they're not like hyper efficient on their own, but they're so good at like talking to me in a way that I can process the information faster, and they do that to everybody in the team. And I think that's actually, understanding people actually makes things a lot more efficient. Like, some people are more like big ideas people, and some people are more detailed people, and the way you talk to them, like if you talk to them differently, like the results are so different. And also, I think I feel like everyone, at the end of the day, we are still like emotional in some way or the other, like even T types, I guess. And I think like just having a respectful environment for everyone, like not letting your anger control you, is actually going to make things more efficient too. So
Yeah,
I
I
think that's
agree.
something that they can learn from FE types. Yeah, reversing it a little bit.
No, I agree with all of those statements. And I think that's why, again, I think that we make better bosses.
But we haven't become one yet.
I know. Well, I mean, I have in some ways. Like, I mean, not now, but like when I was in college, I was, but not now, for sure. But yeah, I mean, this has been really fun, by the way. I want to do more things like this.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, like let me know. Yeah,
Okay.
I have my priorities right, because I realized another thing is that, because I have not been like, I always like, I was wonder why like I run into people who don't appreciate my strengths, and I realized like, because I don't really appreciate my own strengths enough sometimes, and I tend to go into certain fields or go into certain paths that are maybe not like 100% for me, and so that's why like these things keep happening, because I'm not like respecting my own I guess strengths, because we do have our own strengths, and we just have to go towards it like more often, really.
Yeah. No, this makes me also want to, I mean, obviously this wasn't an interview, but it really does make me want to start off my interviews again with people.
Yeah. Oh, we do very good interviews. That's another thing. That's another of our strengths.
I think so too, because like I think we like are good at probing questions, and we just, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because we are able to get people to open up to us really easily too. Yeah, so I gotta go because work's starting soon. But great talk, and
yes,
hope to appear on your channel soon.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye, and remember to like and subscribe.
Yes, definitely subscribe to Tori.
To both me and PUCOKIE, the channel name.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.